Worlders, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma and we are on Bookmas day 7, I think. If you missed my last video yesterday, originally Bookmas was going to be 12 videos long. It's now looking like it's going to be about 10 videos long. I gave a huge explanation in yesterday's video, so I'm not overly concerned. But today it is time for the reading survey of 2021. I'll be honest with you, I did just look at my notes. I don't feel like this is going to be the most exciting reading survey ever, unfortunately. In the past, I feel like I have had some great answers to some of these questions, and this year was just not it. But we're still gonna do it because I love this video. I've done it a few times in the past, but I always gotta shout out Gabby Reads and Books and Lala because those are the first two channels I ever saw these questions on. Both of them will be linked down below, but for me, those two are like the channels that I have to give credit for. I don't know who the original creator was. I don't even know if we're still doing that on BookTube. I know for a while we would like tag the original creator, but I don't know who that is. And yeah, I also know that in the past I took out one of the questions, so I might be missing one of the questions. These are just the questions that I answer. And because from year to year I copy and paste these notes from one year's notes to the next, I will let you know what questions I'm not answering this year because there's a few that I will not be answering. And let's get started. So the first question is, how many books did you read this year and did you meet your goal? So as of December 28th, 2021, I have read 31 books in the year of 2021. My goal was to read 21 books. I exceeded my goal by 10 books. I am not counting my DNFs into this list, so you could theoretically say that I read 34 books this year because I did DNF 3. So, but I'm going with 31, and yes, I did meet my goal. The next question is, what was your most read genre? I believe when I was looking at my stats yesterday, my most read genre was romance. I am not at all surprised by that answer. I think it was almost always romance. I'm a big romance contemporary reader, so I'm pretty sure it came out to romance this year. I am surprised, this isn't one of the questions, but I'm gonna throw it out here because I was looking at my stats yesterday. I'm surprised by how much fantasy I read this year. I am not a huge fantasy reader. I do have to owe it a lot of it. I did reread the Harry Potter series. I do want to put it out there now. I don't support J.K. Rowling in any way. Anything that she said, like trans rights are human rights, but my students were really obsessed with Harry Potter. I had copies. I reread them this past year. Number 3, what was the longest book and what was the shortest book you read this year? The longest book I read this year was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which came out to 870 pages. And the shortest book I read was Tears of a Tiger, which came out to 180 pages. So those were the shortest and the longest. I'm really not surprised by either of those answers, and I enjoyed both of them. I'm going to be talking more about like my average length and stuff in my next video, so I think my next video is my stats video, so I'll talk more about it then. Question number 4 is, what is my favorite book that was published in the year 2021? I actually didn't read a lot of books published in the year 2021, so I do have to say that One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston is my favorite book of 2021 that was published in 2021. I recently learned that I've been saying Casey McQuiston's name wrong, and now I can't remember how everyone else has been saying it. So I apologize for all the books or all the videos where I have been saying their name incorrectly, but One Last Stop was my favorite book from 2021 that was published in 2021. The next question is, what was your favorite book that was a debut in 2021 that was published in 2021? The only 2021 debut that I read this year is actually a book that I have soft DNF'd, and I didn't really like it that much, and it was Honey Girl. I know there's gonna be some people in the comments who hate me for that, but it was the only debut I read this year and I was not a fan. And probably, I don't know if I'm gonna hard DNF it or soft DNF it, but it was the only debut I read this year, so it's kind of the answer, but it's also kind of not the answer. The next question is, what is your favorite book not published in 2021? And my favorite book not published in 2021 is The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. You're going to have to check out one of my last Bookmas videos to find out if The Astonishing Color of After or One Last Stop ended up being my favorite book of the year, but it is one of them. But The Astonishing Color of After is definitely my favorite book that was not published in 2021 that I read this year. The next question is a book that lived up to the hype for you in 2021, and for me it is The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. I was not 100% sure if this book would be something that I would actually like. I am not very into the magical realism. I took a class in college that was all about magical realism and like struggled to understand it and to like grasp what it actually meant, but I definitely understood it from this book. I highly enjoyed this book and would definitely will probably reread it one day in the future. And the next one is, what is a book that did not live up to the hype for you? And I am devastated that this one did not live up to the hype for me, but it was Written in the Stars. This should have been a book that I loved. I am not against trying to read the next books in the series on it, but I didn't like the couple and it made it hard for me to get through the book, and it just didn't live up to the hype. I was expecting some beautiful love story, and it's not that it wasn't a good love story, it just didn't mesh with me. I was not rooting for the characters and I didn't like it. And then I felt very similar about Something to Watch. I also read that and it did not live up to the hype for me either. Both of the books are not bad. I love a good sapphic romance, but I just could not feel it with the two of those, and I hate it because 3 books that I've just like been like I didn't feel were sapphic romances, but they just did not work for me, these 3. I don't know, it just wasn't for me. I didn't feel the chemistry in some of them or what I was hoping to feel. I could say that for both Something to Watch and Written in the Stars, it might have been that I was reading the audiobooks and maybe I would have done better with the physical books. Sometimes I do fantastic with audiobooks and sometimes I don't in books that I normally would love. I don't mesh with when I listen to them in audio, but was not really feeling or loving either of those. The next question is, what book felt like the biggest accomplishment for you this year? So this question is always hard because I don't really read long books. I rarely read a book that's over 400 pages. And I think that oftentimes when we think about the books that are the biggest accomplishments, we think about long books. I could be wrong, maybe you guys disagree with me, maybe you feel differently, but that is often how I feel. But for me, this year, the biggest accomplishment was the last book on my original 5-star prediction, and then it ended up being a book that I struggled to finish because I just didn't love it that much. It was Love, Rosie by Cecilia Ahern. You guys know, if you watch any of my other videos, Love, Rosie is one of my all-time favorite movies. I was expecting to love this book. And it was repetitive, it was annoying, it was frustrating, and I was done. By the time I finished it, I was done. I ended up giving it 3 stars, and I think that was just me being nice. I will link up above, I think it's on this side, I will link up above the book talk, or the wrap up where I talk more about it, because I did go very much in detail about my feelings on this book, but Love, Rosie was definitely the biggest accomplishment of this year. The next question is, what character was your favorite character of the year? So, my favorite character this year was a villain. And here's the thing. I do not like the character. I do not support the character. If I met the character in real life, I would hate them. But the way that this character was written was spectacular. They, to me, felt very fleshed out, very well written. I literally was like, I know people like him who are like this.
Hey guys, so I'm watching back my video and I realized that the next clip might feel kind of spoilerish. So I just want to put a disclaimer in here. When I say villain, I don't mean like an actual villain. I mean like villainistic qualities, especially with it being the thriller. This character is a villain without being a villain while being a villain. So I'm going to put a timestamp right here. And if you haven't read the guest list, you can switch over to it and then you won't get this, I guess. I don't want to give a spoiler, but it doesn't feel like a spoiler to me, if that makes sense. So yeah.
So for me, it was Will from The Guest List, the best written villains I've ever read in my life. I talked about it in my November wrap-up, but I've also talked about the fact that I thought I uploaded my November wrap-up to YouTube. I deleted all the clips, the original video, everything off my computer to try to save some room, and it didn't upload. So no one has been able to see my November wrap-up except for me, and no one else will be able to. And I loved the video because I talked about this book in it, but I also just did some amazing editing in it. So you guys are about to see a little clip of what I did because I said in my wrap-up, and I feel this way truly, if The Guest List ever gets made into a movie, I would really like to see Chad Michael Murray from One Tree Hill play the part of Will. I think that he would do spectacular with it, and part of it is because of the clips I've seen of him do it, play like a daunting, creepy character in Riverdale. I just think Chad Michael Murray would knock this character out of the park. I don't know if The Guest List is on anyone's radar to be made into a movie. It's not a book that I'm like, oh my god, I hope it gets made into a movie. But if it does, producers, please, please, please cast Chad Michael Murray as the character of Will, because I think he would do spectacular. And then my least favorite character of the year, because that's the next question. Who is your least favorite character of the year? If you guys watch any of my videos, I don't think this would be surprising. I don't think many people do, and that's fine. But my least favorite character of the year was, I want to say her name was Abby from 99 Days, or not 99 Days. I hated Molly Barlow in 99 Days, but was Abby in Top 10 by Katie Contago. The last 2 years, I have learned two things. Katie Contago's writing does not mesh with me, and Katie Contago's female characters are not for me. I don't like the way she writes her female characters. Her books are not written for me. I am not her demographic, and that's fine. I understand that. But I had always wanted to read 99 Days. I found 99 Days, the sequel, and then Top 10 on Book Outlet one day, and I wanted to buy them. And both female leads were not for me. I could not stand them, and I wanted to. I wanted to like them. The fact that 99 Days was such a bust for me was so disappointing. And I definitely hated Molly Barlow more than I hated Abby. I think Molly Barlow will go down as one of my least favorite characters ever. But I did not like Abby this year, and she's the only character that stands out enough for me to be like, yeah, I hated her. I also think it's funny that my favorite character was a villain who I would not root for, and my least favorite character was the main character who I was supposed to root for. In different books, but still. There is a question, what is the most shocking book moment? I can't think of any off the top of my head, so I don't have an answer for that one. The next question is, what was your favorite OOTP for this year? So I have two OOTPs. The first one is the one whose names I can't remember, but it is the main couple in The Risk. That was my favorite couple of the 3 Buyer You books that I read this past year. I have not read the last one in the series, but I read the first 3, and The Risk was my favorite couple of it. It was a fake dating enemies to lovers kind of trope. I was here for it. They were cute. I loved them. They were definitely one of my OOTPs. But my other one was Abby and Cooper from Love, Life, and the List, which is one of the first books, actually I think it was the first book I read this year, and I loved them. Loved them. Like, I can be a realist. I know that if a lot of these YA books were set in reality, we would not see these couples end up together for the long run, but I would like to believe that Abby and Cooper would end up together because I loved them. I was rooting for them from page 1, and Casey West played with my heartstrings in Love, Life, in the List. And like, they made an appearance also in Fame, Fate, and the First Kiss, which I also read this year, and still loved them. Definitely still loved them. So Abby and Cooper, definitely one of my favorite. Alright, the next question is, what do you think is the best written book that you read in 2021? This is a really hard one for me to answer because although I do write and I am a writer, I don't necessarily judge writers' craft when I'm doing this. So I really had to like think back and just, I don't know, I don't have a lot of reasons, but like my gut, my brain, my heart is telling me that in my mind the best written book of this year was The Guest List by Lucy Foley, I guess is her name. I always thought it was Foley, but I guess it's Foley, by Lucy Foley. I just really liked the way that she wrote it. I liked the ending. I like how everything added up together at the end of the year. This book is probably going to be in my favorite books of the year, but it is not my favorite book of the year. And I really wanted to like it. What am I saying? I did like it. I wanted it to be like one of my, it was a 5-star prediction. But I loved the writing in it. Just because it is not a 5-star read for me did not mean I didn't like the writing. I enjoyed the writing. I don't have a real reason why I think it was the best written book of the year, but I do. It definitely checked off my like thriller checklist, which for me is I need to be shocked by the whodunit, but I need to be able to look back and be like, oh, that's how you got from point A to point B. And I think of the thrillers I read this year, that one did it the best. The next question is, what was your favorite book cover of the year? I don't have a favorite book cover of the year. Like, I liked the Guest List cover. I liked One Last Stop's cover. I liked the spine. It's gonna sound really weird. I liked the spine of Love, Life, and the List. I'm gonna see if I can find a picture of it anywhere. But I don't think I had a favorite book cover of the year. Don't get me wrong, I judge books by the cover, but I don't have a favorite, and I rarely have a least favorite either. What was your favorite book adaptations of the year? So I had 2. I feel like I just have to mention this one. Also, the fact that this came out this year is blowing my mind because watching this movie for the first time does not feel like it happened in February. It feels like it happened Februaries ago. But because it is the 3rd book in one of my favorite trilogies, I have to mention it, and it is Forever and Always Yours, Lara Jean. I enjoyed it. It was well done. I liked the ending. I liked how they set it up to kind of feel like if they wanted to continue Lara Jean and Peter's story, they could. I heard that they are getting ready to do like a Kitty spin-off series, and I'm here for it. Kitty was an amazing character, especially in the 3 movies. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't know if I'll watch it again. I probably will mainly just watch the first one when I need a Lara Jean fix, but I think if I had to rate those 3 movies in the order that I liked them, it would be the first one, the 3rd one, and the 2nd one, which also corresponds with how I felt about the books. The first one was my favorite, then the 3rd one, and then the 2nd one was my least favorite. But what was probably actually my favorite adaptation of the year, and yes, I'm laughing at myself. You guys can laugh too, because I want to know what multiverse we live in, that this was my favorite adaptation of the year, and it was Clifford the Big Red Dog. Yes, you guys heard me correctly. Clifford the Big Red Dog was my favorite adaptation of 2021. I loved this movie. Like, when I tell you, I was cracking up. Like, I had abs hurting, tears running down my face, trying to hold in the pee laughter when I watched this movie. I cannot wait for it to end up on a streaming service because I will watch it again and again and again. I loved the movies. I was recommending it to my adult friends. I was like, you liked Clifford when you were little? You should watch the movie. I really don't know what world we're living in where Clifford is a 27-year-old's favorite adaptation of 2021, but it was mine, and I loved it, and I will not let anyone bully me into thinking that The Big Red Dog was not the best part of 2021. That's a lie. Spider-Man was best part of 2021, but Clifford the Big Red Dog came after him. Next question is, what book made you cry the most? And it would be The Astonishing Color of After. My mom is alive. She is well. She is healthy. But I cannot watch anything where the mom dies. I struggle to read anything where the mom dies without sobbing because I am terrified of that day. And it did it. It gave me all the feels. I cried. I loved that book. I loved that book. It made me cry. And if you guys know me, I don't outwardly show emotion to books often, so the fact that it made me cry is a big deal. I also would like to say that Tears of a Tiger, I actually read after I made the notes for this, but Tears of a Tiger made me cry in the exact spot it made me cry when I was like 13 years old, but I definitely cried more in The Astonishing Color of After. 10 out of 10 would recommend, especially if you need a cry. So the next question is, what book made you laugh the most? And for me, that would be Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. It was not my favorite Christina Lauren book that I've ever read. Now that I think of it, I might have only read 2 though, so had a 50-50 chance. And the On Honey Motors made it the top. It was corny in some areas, but just the Jessica Day feels of Josh and Hazel made it worth it. It was funny. I really think I pictured Zooey Deschanel in the part of Hazel the whole time I read it. Who was your new favorite author of the year? So here's the thing. When I choose favorite authors, my rule typically is that I have to have read 2 books by them to put them in my favorite author ranking. No books did I read that were new authors to me in 2021 that I read more than 1 book from their publication. So if I had to guess what author that was new to me that if I read another book by them I would still very much enjoy, I am going to go with Lucy Foley, who wrote The Guest List. She does have a book coming out in February, The Paris Apartment. It is on my most anticipated releases of the year list, and I'm definitely going to go with her being what I guess would have been my favorite author, except for the fact that I would do my favorite authors, it wouldn't work that way. What was your guilty pleasure read of the year? This year, it would have to be the Harry Potter series reread. Like I said earlier, I do not agree with anything that J.K. Rowling has said. I don't agree with her. I try not to give her any money. There was still a part of me that felt very guilty for rereading the books because of how much I disagree with stuff that she has said in the past. But Harry Potter for me has to be a case of hate the author, love the work, and that's more or less where we are. I would reread the books again. My cousin just got into them. My like little 8-year-old cousin just got into them, and they're great books. She's a horrible person, but they're great books. The next question is, what was your favorite reread of the year? This question is really hard because I just did 2 rereads in the month of December. I reread The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I also reread Tears of a Tiger. And here's the thing. Both of those books are in my top 5 favorite books ever. Top 5 favorite books ever. Ever. So then I have to decide between the 2 of them. How do I decide between the first book that ever made me bawl my eyes out and I think made me believe in things the way that I do, which was Tears of a Tiger by Sharon M. Draper, and the book that when I finished it, I went, oh my god, I have gotten back into reading and have been back into reading for about 2 years, and I just found one of my favorite books of all time for the first time in 2 years. For the first time in 2 years, I found a book that was on the same level as Anne of Green Gables, which for the longest time and to this day is my favorite book of all times, which was Evelyn Hugo. How do I decide between both of those rereads? Like, I don't think I can. So they're going to be tied. And I was just very dramatic. Sorry. And the final question was, were you happy with your reading year? I was not. I fell into a lot of reading ruts this year. I spent a lot of the year kind of, like normally I enjoy audiobooks and I consume them really fast, not wanting to listen to audiobooks, not wanting to read, not finding anything that gelled with me. There are books that I think the reason that they're rated the way that they are rated is because I was reading them during reading ruts. Like this year was not for me, not my favorite reading year ever, and I'm sad and I'm disappointed. Like if I had to rate this reading year on a scale of 1 to 5, it would be a 2.5. Not my best reading year. I am hopeful, like I said in my reading goals and stuff video, I am pulling in all the positive vibes for 2022 in all areas of my life, including my reading life. I'm pushing positivity out to the world, and yeah, I'm hoping for a better reading year this coming year. I'm excited. I want to read. I'm in a good place. So hopefully 2022 will be better. But yeah, that was my reading survey for 2021. I talked about some of my favorite books, some good things, some bad things. All right, I'm gonna go because I want to try to film one more video before the light is completely gone. But yeah, I hope you guys have been enjoying Bookmas, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, Worlders. And it was Love Rosie by Cecilia. 3 Briar of my favorite. I'm in a weird mood. No, I didn't. Why am I lying? Evelyn Huger.